Welcome to the Veterans Archives podcast, where we honor our nation's veterans by preserving and sharing their stories. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Wreaths Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m. To learn more about our mission, watch veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. We're talking with Pamelajune Anderson, who served in the United States Navy. So good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Bill.
And thank you for taking time out of your day to come speak with me.
The pleasure is mine.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I always ask, when and where were you born?
Oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to tell you the when or not, but...
Give me a ballpark. How about that?
May 12th, 1947. I was born in Columbus, Ohio, Grant Hospital, into a family where mom and dad already had 3 sons and 3 daughters. And I broke the tie. I broke the tie. I am the youngest of 7, and I am the only living one now.
Oh, my goodness.
All of my brothers and sisters have gone on to greener pastures, shall we say, as well as mom and dad.
Okay.
So I'm carrying on the legacy by adding mom's last maiden name, which is Banks, to daddy's last name. So my name really is Pamelajune Banks Anderson.
Oh, goodness.
Now, I know it's long, and there's a story behind that. When I was active duty, my senior officers would insist upon calling me Pamela Anderson because of the Pamela Anderson on the West Coast. And It didn't matter how often I very gently and respectfully corrected them. They just wanted to ride that Pamela Anderson. So I went downtown and paid $250 at that time to have my middle name, which it was June, Pamela, middle name June, attached Pamelajune to have one name. Added Binte, which is Islamic for woman, and my mom's maiden name, Banks, and daddy's last name, Anderson. So they complained, but I wouldn't have done it if they had just called me Chaplain Anderson and left it at that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to back up just a little bit. So did you grow up in Columbus then?
I did. Yeah. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, graduated from Columbus East High School, Champion Junior High School, where they have a photograph of me on the walls there at Champion. And I'm trying to remember why. It was some award that I was blessed with. Boy, it's amazing what you forget, and it's amazing what you remember.
Right.
And then, gee whiz, I went to elementary school, of course, in Columbus, Ohio. The name of that is escaping me right now. Maybe because I'm getting older and I'm putting those kinds of details someplace where it takes me more than a minute to recover it.
Right. I think our minds are like a file cabinet, and there's only so much stuff you can put in there sometimes, right?
I agree. I agree, yes.
So when you went to high school, did you play sports? Did you have a favorite topic or a class?
Believe it or not, I was on the debating team.
Oh, okay.
And I had forgotten about that until I ordered my crucible, and I was just kind of thumbing through it, and there I was with Miss Cooperly, who has probably gone on to be with the Lord by now, in her debate class, and I had forgotten about that. On the private side, though, my parents sent me to become a classical musician.
Okay.
And we had recitals every year, but I only tested that one time, and that's when I played Handel's Messiah for a choir one year. And now I just kind of piddle, but yes, music and the debate team were, and I loved office machines. I was number 2 in the entire city in terms of speed with the typewriter, and because I still enjoy. That's what drives me to the computer is the typing part. So those 3 things are primarily, and as I talk and think about it, I was also a public speaker in high school. I would have opportunities to speak at different places.
Yeah, and I can see where that those things kind of came together, shaped
yes.
who you are.
Yes.
Yeah, so what did your dad do for a living?
My dad was a janitor for the bakery at Kroger's. And I don't know how familiar you are with Columbus, Ohio, but the bakery was like maybe 3 miles from where we lived. And I tell you, in the morning, you could smell that bread just permeating the community. And my mom was also what we call now a domestic engineer, or if for my dad and for my mom, it would be a housekeeper.
Right.
And she was a housekeeper for the people who owned Hanna, Hanna paint company. And it was a good life.
7 kids and domestic engineer. She was a busy person.
Yes,
I can only imagine.
But we were well disciplined. We knew to come home, do our homework, do our chores. And I grew up in a time when we obeyed our parents.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. And not just our parents, we obeyed any senior citizen. The neighborhood was the village.
Right.
And the extension to the village, of course, was the church. So Mom was as busy as any woman would be to come home and make certain that, because by the time I came along, 11 years difference between me and the next one.
Oh, okay.
So I was the 11th year surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so by the time I got up to be any size, there was one sister left at home. So she was 11. So when I went into kindergarten, she was 16.
Yeah.
So Mom just had the 2 of us to be concerned about. So Mom would come in and check to make sure the chores were done and homework was done, and then I could go out and play while she's preparing dinner. And I would often meet Dad at the bus stop, which was a half a block from the house.
Yeah.
And he'd get off that 4:30 bus and get home and clean up, and dinner was at 5.
And you sat at the table with your parents and
sat
had
at
dinner.
the table as a family. Mother always blessed the food. I can never remember Daddy offering a prayer. I'm sure he did somewhere along the line. But Mom would offer the prayer, and we would eat. And you ate what was put before you. I did not care then, and I don't care now, for Brussels sprouts, okra, and there's one more. Tall
Asparagus?
asparagus.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And asparagus. Still don't care for those 3.
3 of my favorites.
Is that right?
That is. Although okra has to be prepared properly. My family came from the South, so okra is fried. It's not boiled. And that makes all the difference.
Yes, it does.
It really does. You could fry anything and it would probably taste good.
Yes.
But yeah. So you mentioned church a little bit in your neighborhood. So was church important to your family then?
And I think church was probably more important in from Mom's perspective. Sometimes when I was growing up, I thought it was more important than family.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really it was high up there on her list of things to do. I remember asking Daddy, I said, Daddy, why don't you go to church? He says, I go to church every Sunday, right out there on that front porch. He said, I'm listening to the birds chirp. I'm watching what little traffic is going up and down the street. I'm looking out for the neighborhood for folks who go to church. He says, that's my calling. I said, okay. But Mom went every Sunday. I can never remember any Sunday that we did not go to church. Now, sometimes we would even go out of town, like to district meetings or to regional meetings. And once a year, we would go to the campgrounds in Pennsylvania, where for the whole week. And that was church every day, starting with Sunday school, or actually starting with breakfast, followed by Sunday school, followed by morning worship, followed by lunch, followed by afternoon worship, followed by dinner, followed by evening worship.
Yes, in my family as well, Sunday was the whole day.
Yes.
And I remember sometimes being in church where you thought that the minister was about done, but he was just getting started.
Just getting started.
Yeah, well, I remember those days.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I think the advantage, though, that we had in this particular congregation was that our pastor was a specialist in Revelation.
Oh, okay.
So I can see now what he was preaching about then.
Yeah.
We're talking 60, 70, 75 years. I can still see the curtain stretched across the altar where he was explaining the beast and the harlot, and didn't make sense to me then. As a matter of fact, I found it frightening then.
Yeah.
But it makes a whole lot of sense to me now. I can see it, that we, meaning the world, is in what we call the birthing pain. And, you know, what follows the birthing pain, of course, is the baby. I don't remember now what the baby stood for, but I'm thinking it's the coming of Christ. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So, and we are living in a very interesting time.
We are.
Yep.
We are indeed. So I'd like to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about, we talked about school a bit. So you graduated high school in Columbus. And what was the next thing for you?
Well, the next thing for me was going into the Army, and Daddy would not have it.
I can only imagine.
He said, no, I'm not going to have any of my daughters in harm's way. So I guess I must have been about 19. I graduated, I was 17. So I went to work for the federal government. And interesting how I did not recognize, but the role racism played in those days. My counterpart got a promotion, but I didn't. And when I asked the commandant about it, he said, well, we really don't have the money for both of you to be promoted. And in my naivete, I wrote the Department of Army in Washington, D.C., and I explained to them that we didn't have the money for me to be promoted, and if they would consider sending the money for me to be promoted. Well, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I get a letter of invitation to come to Washington, D.C. and work. And so I didn't know what to do with that other than to discuss it with my parents.
Right.
Of course, Daddy went through the roof. No, you can't leave home. No, I want you to marry. I want you to get married and take it from there. Well, I wasn't quite ready for marriage.
Yeah.
So, and my mom didn't have any discussion. She just went to the telephone and called somebody that she knew in Washington, D.C. and asked if I could stay with them, and the rest is history.
Right.
So I stayed in the Washington, D.C. area, including Maryland. I never lived on the Virginia side, but I lived on the Maryland side until 1985, from the time I left home in 1967.
So when you left home in 67, you had joined the Army by this point?
No.
Oh, okay.
I went to work for the Department of Army.
Oh, you went to work for the Department of Army.
Right.
Okay.
Daddy wouldn't sign for me to go in.
Got you. Okay.
So and so when I resigned, back to the story about racism.
Yeah.
When I resigned, submitted my letter of resignation, here comes the commandant, all hot and bothered. Well, will you stay if we promote you? And I said, well, I thought you didn't have the money to promote me. Listen, you're so good, we will double promote you. I said, no, I'm going to take the offer in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And it was many years before that made sense to me, but it really was racism. Because he found the money to promote me not only to a GS3, he wanted to promote me to a GS4. And in Washington, they were offering me a GS3. But I thought about the learning opportunities in Washington, D.C. I had been there on a trip, family, cousins trip. A bunch of us just went to D.C. to hang out. And I was so fascinated with the city and the way it was laid out and the monuments. And so to move to the area was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
I had received the call to ministry. I must have been about 13 or 14. And I would come home after church and I'd go to the recreation room on the lower level of the house and I would open my Bible up and I would give my lesson. That's how I knew that I was interested, at least had an interest in that kind of a possibility, that kind of a probability, really. And because my first job was as a babysitter in our household. When you turn 16, you got a job, papers or something. So my oldest sister arranged for me to babysit for one of the physicians' families there, because that level of community, they'd always go into some function where they needed a babysitter. And one night, the mother of the family asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I said, I want to be a minister. I didn't even know what I was talking about,
right.
But that came full circle. I was at a party. I was at a party one night. I'd stopped going to church and I was hanging out in the world and popping my fingers and, shaking my derriere and drinking my Black Bull and smoking my cigarettes and weed. Just having a good old time.
Living the life.
Oh, I was living the devil's life, no matter how you cut the cake.
Yeah.
And I was at this party, and I heard this voice over my left shoulder, up in the corner. And the voice said, Anderson, you've gone far enough. I said, well, folks, I got to go. Be going to church in the morning and returning to the church. And if you want to see me, that's where I'll be. And I did that. The date was February I want to say the 28th, 1979. So from 1979 69. I got in the city and I got into D.C. in 67. By the time 69 had rolled around, I was out of the church.
Let's take a quick break.
Before we continue, we'd like to share a resource that may be helpful to veterans and their families. The Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org is designed to connect veterans with support, resources, and a community that understands their experiences. If you or a veteran you know could benefit from those resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app and learn more at vetlifetoday.org. So for almost 10 years you were out of the church, yeah? Oh, for 10 years, yeah.
Yes, yes. And the first 79, and I was in a relationship. I had co-signed for a house for us to live in. And I said, well, Lord, how do I get out of this contract that I've gotten myself into? And long story short, I don't know how much of this I want on camera, but the Lord got me out of it legitimately.
Yes.
Okay. And I started going back to church more regularly. And somewhere along the line, I graduated from with my bachelor's from Johns Hopkins. And I knew that I had to go to seminary in order to be ordained and yada, yada, yada.
So at this point, you decided that you're going to be a minister?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was working for the federal government, but you know when there's a change coming because it no longer satisfied me.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't satisfy me on the inside.
Right.
Wonderful on the outside, but so I went to seminary and God was really good to me. Howard University School of Divinity. And the dean took to me right away. He would call me Pamela. He said, Pamela, I want to be your mentor. And if you will allow me to do that, you'll start by working for me. And I said, well, Dean, I don't know that I know what I'm doing, but okay. And I worked for his dean, his associate dean, for about a year. And then the dean of the school spoke to the dean of the chapel, Andrew Rankin Memorial Chapel, who selected me to be his assistant. And so for the remainder of my time there at the Divinity School, I graced the pulpit at the chapel with some pretty amazing speakers. That's where I met Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright. As a matter of fact, I asked him for the sermon, and I still have his sermon from that particular Sunday. All these years later, and the late Patricia Roberts Harris, I don't know if that name...
That does not.
She was the first African-American woman in Jimmy Carter's cabinet.
Okay.
She was the director at HUD. And her funeral, or I should say her wake, was at the chapel. And I saw all these black women dressed in black that night. And I said, well, who are these women? And I heard this voice say, well, it's Delta Sigma Theta, like I was supposed to know. That's why I was asking the question, right?
Right.
So I pushed the envelope. I said, oh, really? And who are you? Well, I'm the president. I'm the national president. Well, okay. You know, the sun will come up in the morning. I'm just asking questions. But
you just want to know.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
And, of course, years later, I became a Delta in 1988. So those were probably three of the of the most amazing years in ministry. And of course, you could not be ordained until you had a placement. And the United Church of Christ had a program, a national program, and they selected 3 women, and I was one of the 3 for an internship. And they said, you can go any place in the country that you want to. And I said, well, I really want to stay here. And no. Any place in the country other than here. And I said, okay, well, Detroit is close to Columbus. I'll take Detroit. I was ordained the same year, and about 3 weeks ago, I was at that church doing one of the 7 last words. So I've kept in touch with the pastor of that church, the Honorable Reverend Dr. Nicholas Hood III. That was another amazing time in the ministry. Now, somewhere in between the Andrew Rankin Memorial Chapel and Plymouth United Church of Christ, Detroit, I went to boot camp. Even officers have boot camp, as you know.
Got to learn how to be in the military,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, because there's the right way, there's the wrong way, and there's the Army way.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or the Navy way.
The Navy
yes,
way.
absolutely.
Yes. So the summer before I graduated, I went to boot camp up in Newport, Rhode Island. A very interesting 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I tell you, and the first 2 weeks you can't be in touch with family. I couldn't be in touch with my fiance.
Right.
And it was different. Let's put it that way. Could I do it again? Not at this age. Would I do it again if I could go back? Only if I could go back a little younger. I think
because you were
about
how old?
37.
Yeah, so you were right at that upper level of being able to go, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And some of the exercises were a bit tedious. But by the grace of God, praying mother, we made it. We made it. And that was a good experience until I augmented, of course. I officially came into the Navy. Right. And did very well. I was assigned to a unit up in Upper Michigan, about an hour from Detroit. And my first deployment, my first 2 weeks were in Portsmouth, Virginia. At the hospital. And of all things, I was assigned to the HIV/AIDS ward. Oh, what an experience! We didn't know then that it was contagious, and we'd have to robe up and mask up and gloves and everything. I said, look, I need to touch these people. These people need to be touched. And there's one guy, I don't remember his name, Skin and Bones, and I just very gently put him in my arms. And he said, this is the first human touch I've had in months. And I had taken my gloves off and my mask off because I thought it was... I thought it was inhumane to visit with patients. I mean, unless sometimes you're visiting patients and there's oxygen involved. Right. I can understand the gloves and the mask, but if there's no danger of anybody catching fire or anything, I'm not going to catch this. Right. I had a praying mother. And I knew that mother was praying for me. And so I took some risks that I probably would not have taken if I didn't have a praying mother. God rest her soul. And after that, my next deployments and all deployments thereafter were in Europe.
Oh.
I did get to go to Okinawa for one, but for 2 weeks rather. But they were in Sicily. Oh, there was Mount Etna that was belching the night that an earthquake came through.
Yeah.
And it woke me up. I heard all this screaming, abandoned housing come out into the front yard and said, what in the world is going on? Went out into the yard and there was, Edna was visible at night, especially if she was having an issue,
Oh,
to
yes.
say the least, right?
Yes. You can see the hot lava and everything else, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. But I tell you something, Brother Bill. I won't say that on the camera, but I will say this. When I went to the office the next day, from the top to the bottom, it was covered with snow. Mm-hmm. I said, now that's interesting. That night, I heard that same voice over my left shoulder that I've come to know as the Holy Spirit. Go out and look to the north. She was just belching. And the voice continued. And next morning, on the way to the office, covered snow, top to bottom. And the voice extended the conversation by saying, if I can make this mountain hot enough to belch fire at night, but cool enough to maintain the snow, don't you know I can take care of you? Mm-hmm. And from then on, it was smooth. I don't care what this person did, what this person said, how this person acted, who had, let's see, at that time I was a Lieutenant JG, or was I a lieutenant? At any rate, he was 2 or 3 grades above me.
Yeah.
Didn't believe in women in ministry, and definitely didn't believe in Black women in ministry, right? So it was not easy. But that voice had assured me that I would be taken care of, that right. I would live to get back to America, Mount Etna, or no. And so we got through those 9 months. Mm-hmm. And I came out for a little while after that. I had gotten some mental diagnoses that I still deal with on a daily basis. But even though it was the worst, it was also the best of deployments.
Yeah.
And so very often experiences turn out. You think that this is the end of the world when in fact it's the beginning. So that's my short term on, and when I, with the military, but when I came back in 2004, the CO said, well, I've been looking for you. What do you mean you've been looking for me? Well, number one, we don't have any chaplains, and he said, I'm just going to be honest. We need Black people out here.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Still back in Columbus. And so it took me another year to get acclimated, to lose the weight and to get back in shape. And, my sister used to shake her head because, if she was going in town, I'd ask her to drop me off at a certain corner and I'd walk back home. And she said, you really want this bad, don't you? I said, yes, I do.
Yeah, so you had gotten out and now you were going to try and get back in.
Correct.
And you were no younger than you were before.
No, I was not any younger.
Yeah.
I was in my mid-50s.
Right, right.
I was in my mid-50s. But there's something about the need of the federal government. They will bend and even break the rules if they need you.
Oh, yeah.
So
if it benefits them.
That's right.
The rules can be changed.
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right. So I really don't know how I did that run.
I know how you did it. That voice over your shoulder.
I guess you're right about that too.
Yeah, that's how you did it.
Yes, and I think about that when I see a sign overhead, such and such an exit, 1.5 miles, and I look at that distance and I say, really? You got to be kidding me. At one point, I could run that. Now, I don't know if I could walk it.
Yeah,
but
I don't even like
try.
driving it. Right?
So
So you came back in, you said 2000.
it must have been 2003.
Okay. So you came back into the Navy then.
I did. I came back into the Navy. By then, I had been promoted to lieutenant commander.
Okay.
And which has its privileges. I did not want to be any higher because I didn't want a desk job.
Right.
I really wanted to be with the sailors. So I retired in 2009 as a lieutenant commander, and I continue working with veterans in faith-based organizations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Since 2009.
That is correct.
Yeah. So you retired from one place, but you're still doing something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Veterans is that's my ministry. That's where my heart. That's where my calling is.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you another question. I want to go back a little bit. You had mentioned a fiance in there somewhere. Did you end up getting married?
Okay. Okay.
And if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to.
No, I can talk about it now. There was a time when I couldn't. When I was leaving the city, of course, I stopped by to let Howard know. He lived in Baltimore. I stopped by to let him know I was on my way. He was a National Guard. Okay. To let him know. And he'd been over to kiss me. And he said, look, I don't want you to worry. They found that I have small cell cancer, but I'm going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And so when it got to a point where we could be in touch with one another, we wrote one another.
Yeah.
When I got back in September and went by to see him, I didn't recognize him. He had lost all of his weight. All of his muscle mass was gone. He said, I'm going to be okay. We're going to, it's my senior year at the Divinity school. He said, you're going to school when you, and I did. And when I graduated, he said, look, you've been in seminary, you've been to boot camp. Time for you to go home and spend some time with your family. And I said, well, and when you come back, we'll go down to the beach and make wedding arrangements. I had already bought my dress. My mom and I went to buy my dress the year before. And when I went home, and my future sister-in-law picked me up at the airport when I came back. And she said, I'm so sorry, but I need to say this as soon as I can. Howard died this morning. Oh. He tried to wait for you. He walked all night long, knowing you were coming back today, but he just couldn't hold out any longer. So that's what happened to that. And I've never, I don't know if you're married or not, but what you know when you know it. Yeah. And I knew he was the one. Right. And so I've never really thought about, considered anyone. Well, yeah, I did consider one other person, but my heart wasn't in it. And I think he knew it because he never got to the question. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. I was just curious, and sure. I am married. I have found the one, but I know what you mean. Yes. Like if I lost that one, I would figure out just how to do what I'm doing. Yes. So after you're retired, you say you work with veterans. So what are you doing now with veterans? I'm curious. What I'm doing is developing camaraderie with the veterans, because a lot of times, we come back and when do we see one another? So I call these churches and I ask them if they have any veterans, and if the answer is yes, may I come out and visit with the veterans, and I explain who I am and what I did in the military and what I would like to do. And I'm working with 4 churches right now that I have not been working with since I got COVID in 2003. 2023. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I've experienced some long-term symptoms. And I really must guard my energy. Doesn't take much.
Right.
So I haven't been back to the churches since 23, but I am contacting these 4 churches that I was working with to let them know that I would like to come back. But I'd like for it to be a Sunday afternoon as opposed to a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So, because most of our churches start worship at 10. Well, if you're an hour away, that means I need to get up and be on the road by 8:30. Well, I don't want to get on the road and get up and be on the road by 8:30.
Right.
It's time for me to take care of myself, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's why I'm asking for afternoons, and so far, so good. And what we are doing, in addition to developing camaraderie, is developing a gallery of the veterans in the congregation, and take pictures with sometimes they're individual, sometimes they're group, with the pastor and with and I'm there in uniform. And the operating scripture for these galleries is the one about a person laying down his life for his friends.
Right.
Because any one of us would have been willing to do that in combat, lay down our lives for our friends, for our fellow comrades. And we posted in a visible place, someplace in the church. A lot of times that's the fellowship hall. And what that does is leave with the church a visual history of the men and women from that congregation who served. And we have that photo, that gallery sits on that scripture. And then across the top is Space for Grace, which is the name of my organization.
Yes.
At whatever the name of the church is.
Okay.
And the pastor put the pastor's name up there. So
Very
that's
nice.
what we're doing. Yes.
That's very nice. And
Very time consuming, and in some ways very emotional.
Yeah. It can wear you out at times.
It can, but I suspect that I'll be able to wrap this up in about 10 years. And I'm also meeting with a fellow veteran who has her own office. She is now a therapist, I think. And and I'm getting ready to go back and get my certification in Christian counseling. And my jeweler is just getting ready to do her, what do you call it when you're going to become a psychologist and you have to write up, what do they call those?
Oh, her dissertation?
No, not the dissertation, the one-on-ones that you have to write up. See, clinical pastoral education that you have to write up. Well, maybe it'll come to one of us. She is going to be working with this person. She's given this person a copy of my latest book, which is Healing My Soul on Purpose, A Veteran's Guide to Suicide Intervention. And we're going to do a follow-up to that book for everybody, suicide, a guide to suicide intervention. Because the one that I've written is really on college level, and I need to write one on elementary school level.
Right.
And so another part of me wants to acquire a hotel type of a structure and have it configured as a 2-bedroom apartment for women veterans who may be homeless. I don't think at this point it's necessarily a good idea to mix the men and the women. They're getting one of my colleagues in federal veteran is getting ready to build what they call tiny houses.
Right, yes.
Down the way here, not too far from here. And maybe they'll mix there. But that's a vision that I've had for quite a while.
So you have some plans to
I do.
to accomplish.
I do.
Absolutely.
And I think that I can do this by the time I'm 89. I think I can do it. I'm just going to do it by the time I'm 89.
But I believe you. I believe you. Well, we've covered a lot in our discussion today. So really have 2 questions left. And the first question is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about? Is there anything that we haven't covered as part of our discussion that you think would be important?
I think that this is important, and I'm hoping that I'm on track to address that need nationally. We're still at 21, 22, 23 veterans who take their lives every day.
Right.
And so dealing with suicide, intervention, how do we get to the service member or how do we get to the veteran before they take their lives? And if there is that tendency there, because I was diagnosed with suicide ideation, so how do I use my diagnosis to reach those who are also diagnosed with suicide ideation?
Right.
And have support groups to share with them how I am still living after the initial onset. Twice suicide survivor. And I tell you, and I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I prayed my way through it.
Yeah.
A lot of the credit, though, all of the glory goes to God, but a lot of the credit goes to me and my psychiatrist. We finally, just this year, found the right medicines, balance of medicines. And now it doesn't even, well, every now and then it crosses my mind if I've had a rough day.
Right, right.
But no plans.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing, even though this housing piece is in front of that, and in front of the housing piece is the church piece. So we've got the church piece is number one, the housing is number two, and this suicide intervention is number three, which is the hardest piece.
Right.
Which is the hardest piece and the most emotionally draining piece.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that or I'm believing, not just hoping, anticipating, believing, we're pretty much in the same family, that I'll be able to just get started on that relatively soon. So those are the three things per se that we've not talked about that are near and dear to my heart.
Okay. And it sounds like really even though they're a step-by-step process, right? They all kind of play in together. So
yes, they do.
It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds for you over the next few years. But as we kind of wrap up our conversation today, I do have one final question, and that is for someone who listens to your story 100 years from now, when neither one of us are here to explain it, what would you like to leave them with? Like, what piece of advice would you give to people who are hearing your story years from now?
That you don't have to take your life. Your life is a gift, and what you must take time to discover is how to gently unwrap this gift that we call life. Shit happens to all of us. Righteous, unrighteous, tall, short, fat, skinny, veteran, non-veteran. It happens to all of us. So you have something in common with probably 90% of the rest of the world. And maybe you just don't know that you are not in this by yourself. You have my story. You have my experience. You learn how to pray. As a matter of fact, I brought this in to give to you.
Okay.
We put this together, prayers, praying prayers. And you have this that you can get on Amazon that will teach you what prayer is. And yes, you are eligible to pray. And yes, if you are sincere and interested in becoming a son or daughter of the Lord's, one of the Lord's sons or daughters, then all you have to do is confess your sins and repent and call on the name of Jesus, and believe that he rose from the dead, and you're at it. And Jesus has this one promise, and he keeps all of his promises, but this one: I will never leave you nor forsake you. Now, if you're not interested in Jesus, I can't help you. You have to check with somebody else, and whoever it is that they serve, or whoever it is that they worship, or whoever it is that they follow. But that's who I follow, and it makes all of the difference in the world.
Well, Dr. PJ, thank you for sharing all of that with us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. You have been very kind, very gracious. And I hope that maybe 5 or 6 years down the road, we can double back and see where we are.
We'll do part 2.
We'll do part 2. How about that?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Veterans Archives podcast and for helping us honor the service and sacrifice of our nation's veterans. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with others so more people can hear these important stories. To learn more about our mission, watch additional veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Reads Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m.